What is art? Well, before I present my introduction to what art is, I would like to discuss for a few minutes what art is not. Unfortunately, in the U.S., we are poorly educated in the arts, at least the older generation. Most of what we think we know about art is usually wrong or at best a misconception. We babble cliches as though they were facts, patronize artists, and hope for our children to appreciate art and artists, but God forbid they ever become one. We think of art as only for those with special talent, as though it were something unnatural, and yet we feel the only thing necessary for making judgments about art is a pair of eyes. I don't know much about art, but I know what I like, or beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Even an otherwise well-educated individual can go from kindergarten to PhD having taken no art classes at all, or certainly no expectation to experience drawing or painting. Misuse of the word art drives me up the wall. Before we get into defining art, I think we need to clear the air and define what art is not. For example, the martial arts are not art. I know that sounds weird, but we frequently misuse the word art, as in the martial arts, to mean something done well with the hands and body. But that's the definition of craft, not art. The martial arts should be called the martial crafts. They are skillful aggression and fighting, but not art. It is very nice also that people want to use the word art as a compliment and catch-all word for anything done well, like the martial arts, as when people also say that she took her athletics beyond mere sport and made it an art. Also, I have heard pretend doctors say on Grey's Anatomy that medicine is not science, but rather an art. In medicine, doctors must, of course, use their intuition and creativity. Those two characteristics are as vital in medicine as they are in the fine arts. Experimentation is also one of the common activities integral to both medicine and the fine arts. You will hear much more about this later in my video on the fine arts. Strictly speaking, though, medicine is science and art is something else. I will admit that there is one area of medicine that could be considered applied art, but not fine art, and that is plastic surgery, because it concerns itself in a very major way with appearance, just as graphic and industrial designers and craft persons do. Creativity, drawing, beauty, truth, craft, skill, and self-expression are not the exclusive realm of the arts and do not define something as art. An engineer is not an artist, but they delineate their very useful and creative ideas for functional things constantly. Every profession relies on creative and insightful practitioners. Football coaches are not artists, but they design many wonderful and creative plays to outsmart their opponents. Like football, art is something specific. To understand and/or practice either requires knowing those specifics. Okay, in football, you are required to have 6 things/conditions to be considered playing football. They include, number 1, you have to have a football. You have to have some kind of thing that is being used as a football. Number 2, you have to have boundaries, places where you cannot go. Number 3, you have to have a goal, a place to score. Number 4, you have to have at least 2 people to play football. You have to have an offense and a defense. Whether you have 2 people or you have 11 on each side of the ball, you have to have offense and defense. That's a basic precept of football. All right, number 5, and this is very important, you have to have specific football movements. Movements that are unique to American football, because that's what I'm talking about. In American football, you do have movements that you cannot do, say for instance in soccer, because the average player cannot touch the ball with their hands in most circumstances. Number 6, you have to have an agreed upon set of rules. College football has a different set of rules from 2 guys or 2 gals playing in the backyard. You have high school football, you have college football, you have football for little kids. So you have to have an agreed upon set of rules. It matters not what you think you are doing. If you are not fulfilling these 6 basic precepts, you are not playing football. The same goes for art. If you are not utilizing the basics of art, then you are not making art. You are doing something else, but you're not making art. Art is not science. With each new discovery, science grows. It gets better. But as the famous art historian Sister Wendy Beckett said, art starts at the top. It changes, but it just doesn't get any better. I like to add that no artist of any era in art or of all of humanity could do any better with what the cave painters had to work with. They had no formal training and their tools were limited, but they had their imagination and the ability to observe. We can do no better today, nor at any other time in history, than the cave painters did in their time with what they had. Art is the exclusive domain of humans. Animals, gods, and spirits do not make art. Only people make art. Artists are very human, very flawed and imperfect, but excellent and skilled observers of their own world and the world at large. Animals can be trained by their trainers to mimic art, but never create it. I may have to eat those words if research with primates continues and proves me wrong. But until then, I will think I am right. A god is perfect, and therefore is excluded from the world of art. We make art because we have flaws. We are imperfect and don't know things. We rejoice and experiment in our discovery of what is new to us because we are constantly becoming who we are. Yes, we were born with a certain unique set of characteristics, but with each new experience and each new day, we add fresh sensations to our skills, knowledge, and intuition. A being who knows all the answers has no reason to make art. We make art to solve problems and find answers, glorify and or express our view of the world, or to just ask questions. God should have that all figured out by now.